Okay. Let us begin seated today in any comfortable seat on a prop or not. Just coming into some kind of shape where you feel upright and open. You can start to feel into all the places where you're touching the floor and starting to ground down. Connecting first with this sense of down, down into the sides of the legs, down through the skin, through the sides of the feet. Almost like your bones themselves are settling into the earth, like maybe the bones of the pelvis are sinking down. I'm feeling like what we were talking about a little bit last week, this sense of yielding down. So there's almost like there's an exchange. You're yielding down, and then the floor is in some way kind of lifting back up through you. Hi, Richard. Can you hear me okay or no? Can you hear me? Yeah. Cool. Hey. Just starting seated. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good, good.
Excited for class.
Good. Me too. Sorry for the late start. Here we are. All right. So as you're feeling into this sense of down, down through your seat, down through your feet. Notice how it's not like a deadening down or like a dropping and stopping. It's like this sinking sort of feeling down, and then there's a rebound up through the center of the spine from the base of the pelvis all the way up. So then you can start to feel this widening and broadening across the collarbones, across the ribs, this lifting, this easy kind of lifting through the crown of the head. And if it's comfortable to do so, you can bring your hands kind of underneath your armpits, like you're having your hands on your hips, but like way up, almost in your armpits, as high up as you can go, with keeping your shoulders relaxed. So you're trying to feel for the side ribs. You can, if you can kind of reach a thumb around the back, you can kind of feel the back ribs. Then your fingers are resting on your sides, front side ribs, and soften the shoulders as much as you can. I guess another way to do this is to come around the sides, but I kind of, this lifting and kind of feeling of this opening of the chest is kind of interesting. And just notice whatever you're noticing as you're breathing in and out through the nose, notice this space between your hands. You can imagine that your thumbs extend all the way around the back and that your fingertips are growing long and extend all the way across the front. So you're really taking in this whole structure. Feeling into your roundness, your volume, not just from hand to hand, but all the whole circumference around the ribs. Noticing the right half and the left half, and how as you're breathing, you're kind of brushing up against these two sides. As you're breathing, you feel the front and the back, and how you're breathing into like you're gonna move into the space in front and the space in back. And the more that you're feeling into this three-dimensionality and this roundness of the rib cage, or rib basket, as I've heard it called as well, which is just kind of a nicer, flexible, it's not a cage, it's like this, flexible but sturdy basket. See if you can feel even more into that center place. Then we'll just open formally with a chant. We'll chant Om once, and you're welcome to chant all together. Just feel the sound and feel the sound in this spherical 3D space of the torso. So we'll inhale through the nose. Whoa. And then let's come just briefly to all fours to take this container, and now we're turning it on its side. So as you're in your tabletop, and if you feel inspired to move through some cows and cats, that's cool. But you're mostly just noticing, even as you're reaching the heart forward into cow, for example, you're feeling this whole 3D space. It actually might be kind of nice to make some nice big circles with the ribs, kind of feeling the spatial limits of like where you can reach with the ribs as you circle the torso one way and then the other way. And then just tuck your toes underneath you and come to a downward facing dog with the knees nice and bent, spreading your fingers wide. And a really nice deep bend in the knees and pedaling out the feet as you see fit, just feeling into the backs of the legs. Yeah, and maybe letting that movement of the knees bending and straightening start to kind of travel through the rest of the body. It's really nice. And opening up the armpits and just feeling that whole, all the space. Good. And then settling into downward facing dog and just feeling into this downward dog on this day, this time. As you inhale, we'll come forward into a plank. Spreading the collarbones wide, reaching the heels back as you reach the heart forward. One more inhalation. And then just exhale and come back to downward facing dog with the knees bent. So flowing through, inhaling, coming forward, and exhaling, coming back. At the pace, at the tempo that feels right. Maybe breathing, a breath in one pose or then the other, or maybe moving with a little bit more legato, shape to shape, never really landing in one shape or the other. And then next time that you're in downward facing dog, just be there for a moment, feeling the heels reach towards the floor, the fingertips pressing down and forward. Even if the knees are bent, the heels are reaching towards the ground. And then walk your feet towards your hands. Hang out in Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Good. Bending your knees as much as is comfortable. Grabbing opposite elbows, perhaps. Swaying side to side, or just finding stillness. Good. Bring your fingertips alongside your feet. And on an inhalation, just feel the breath fill up into the torso. Let your head and neck stay nice and soft. Let everything stay hanging. But just feel the in-breath come into the torso, into the ribs, front and back sides. And then as you exhale, feel the belly more move towards the spine. Let everything release. So playing with this inhalation as something that kind of blows up the torso, not like explosion, like inflation. Inflates the torso. And then as you exhale, the belly moves towards the spine, the knees, are in a soft bend. You can just release over the legs. So sometimes this movement is exaggerated and we come like halfway up and we come into a full Ardha Uttanasana or we reach the heart forward. Here we're just looking at filling up the torso, feeling that there is a little lift of the chest forward. Exhaling, coming deeper into the forward bend. And then inhale, come all the way up, pressing into your feet to come up with a long spine. Good, and just coming to standing. Tadasana, noticing whatever you notice here in Tadasana. And then take your feet kind of wide. You can bend your knees. You could turn your feet out. You could keep them parallel, but you'll just take your feet wide and start to side yourself in any way. And just notice what is going side to side. I went automatically for like a knee, like my kneecaps were like side to side. But there's also like maybe the elbows are finding side to side. You can let it get very, very weird. It could be a big sweeping kind of twist that goes side to side. It could be the head and tail are rotating side. It's just get weird, get funky. Side to side though is the the prompt. The choreography is side to side. As you go to one side, notice the other side of you going to the other side. You lean to one side, that opposite foot goes to the other side. There's kind of like a stabilizing. Yeah. How many different ways? Yeah. Nice. And then softly, eventually, you can just let that die down. Let it come a little smaller. You still have a sense of, I have the ability to move side to side. And then bring your feet parallel, so all of your toes face the same direction. And coming back to holding onto the ribs here up under the armpits. And just feel that where the ribs are. Heels are on the ground. Feet are on the ground, arches are lifted. Good, and we'll inhale the right arm up overhead, bring the left hand to your hip. And with the feet parallel, you'll just slide the left arm down your leg and come up and over with the ribs. So you're coming into a side bend towards your left side. As far as makes sense. And let it be a really true side bend. So you're opening up the right armpit, coming up and over. And then inhale to come out. Exhale, lower the arm. So feet are parallel. Inhale, lift the left arm up. Feel the right hand can be on the right hip, or it can start to slide down the leg as you reach up and over with the ribs. So it's not a back bend, it's not a forward bend. You're not bringing your body into either plane, forward or back. You're just kind of leaning to one side, feeling the space between the low ribs and the pelvis. So even the side that is being compressed, there is a little compression here on the right side, but you're not squished. There's still room to breathe. And inhale to come up. And exhale to lower your hands. And feet are still parallel because if you notice, when we turn the foot out, like when we're doing triangle pose, for example, we're coming into a side bend, but there's also kind of like a little twisty thing happen. In order to come down, we into triangle, we have to then rotate. So here with the feet parallel, we're just exploring the side bend. And let's try a little like kind of dancey version of this. So but being very, very clear, we're inhaling up with the right arm, exhaling to come over, sliding the left arm down the leg. Inhale, bring both arms up. Exhale, coming over to the other side. Inhaling to come up. Feeling how the exhalation brings you up and over. Inhaling to come up. Moving slowly, fluidly, like you're moving through some. This kind of reminds me of like synchronized swimming or something like that. You're like, la, 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 side to side. But notice how the feet, the hips, everything stays really supportive. And the ribs stay lifted. They're going up and over. Good. And then once you've done an even number of sides, you can just step your feet together. Bring your hands down by your side. Notice whatever you notice in Tadasana. Having your feet right underneath your hips. Good. Nice. And now we'll do just, I think, one more standing pose before we come back down to the ground. But your feet are, step them wide again, even wider than they were before. And turn your left foot toes towards the short end of the mat. If you're on a mat, maybe turn sideways. And your right foot toes can turn in a little bit. And then you'll take a really deep bend in this left foot. No, it's called a knee, left knee. We're coming into extended side angle. Deep bend in the left knee. Right foot is pressing down into the floor. And I'm propped up on this forearm. Good. Or you could always bring a hand down to a block on the outside or something like that. Outside of the foot. If you're leaning into this forearm, see that you're not leaning into it too much where you're actually putting a lot of weight on it. Use that elbow to actually press yourself away from the knee. And then I have a hand actually on my sacrum, just like as a habit. But a hand on the hip, hand on the sacrum, something to just let you know where the pelvis is. So this is like, you can kind of feel, this is that side bending, but there's also like a little twisting up happening. And then maybe you reach your arm up and over your ear. So you're reaching your fingertips in the same direction as like your bent knee, sort of. It could be straight up to the ceiling, it could be over the ear. And feeling this long side from your pinky toe of your right foot all the way to your middle of your right middle finger. The middle of your right middle finger, the true center. Feeling how this is a side bend and a little bit of a tiny little twist. Good. Press into both feet to come up nice and fluidly into Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2. And then we'll just turn the toes to all face the same direction. Turn the right foot toes towards the short end of the mat, turn the left foot toes slightly in. And then other side, take a nice deep bend in that right knee. Coming up and over into extended side angle. Using this right elbow for support, but not dumping into the shoulder. Use it to press the torso away from the thigh. Or you can have your hand down on the ground or some other variation. This left hand can be on the hip, behind the back, up, over. This feeling of length through the sides. And then almost a little twisting action as the ribs try and stack the left ribs on top of the right. And feel how you're lifting away from your legs. It's such a dramatic bend into this knee and your whole torso is going this way, but don't feel like you're like dumping into your right side. It's like you're using your whole torso to lift off of that bent knee and hold yourself up in this long diagonal. Then press into both feet to come up, Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Good, straighten the front knee, turn all of your toes back towards the front. And then lower the arms. Then you'll just heel toe or step one at a time, or you could jump your feet together, something to get back to Tadasana, and just notice whatever you notice. So you're noticing the impression that's left over from this very wide, very like strong pose. So here, just standing, notice whatever you notice. A feeling of maybe width through the shoulders, through the hips. It's like you somehow remember what it was like to take up that much space, and now you're in Tadasana. See if you can still feel that spaciousness or that distance that you were just covered. From fingertip to fingertip now, instead of being here or whatever, give your hands a little closer to each other, to the midline. You can maybe remember that sense of being wide and expansive. Good. Next. Turn to face the front of your space once again. You'll inhale your arms out through the sides, coming up to Urdhva Hastasana, feeling the arms sweep through the very limits of where you can reach with your fingers, drawing these wide half circles. And then as you exhale, you'll fold forwards, again, sweeping your arms through the sides. So you have these big wings coming down to Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Bend your knees, let your head hang. Good. On your next in-breath, you can step your feet back into a plank. And if you'd like, you could go straight back to downward facing dog, or maybe you lower down to the floor and go through this. Yeah. In your cobra pose, if you're going through like a vinyasa sequence, in your cobra or your up dog, you feel this width across the collarbones. If you want to, you could come through that sequence one more time, smoothly moving with the breath, of course, inhaling to come forward, using your whole exhale to come down, whole inhalation to come up, and just thinking of how wide collarbones. Yeah, good. And then in downward facing dog, it's like wide hips, the sitting bones, the legs are going back and out. Feel it's from outer foot to outer foot, just how much space. Outer shoulder to outer shoulder, how much space. Good. Inhale in your downward facing dog and come up onto your tippy toes. Bend your knees any amount. And then I feel like we did this last week. I love this thing. As you exhale, in the space after your exhalation, just move your heels from side to side. So you'll inhale, you'll start to exhale, start to move your heels from side to side. And continue this movement in that little space after the exhale. As soon as the inhalation is ready to come back in, you'll stop the movement and come back to downward facing dog, just breathing in. And then you can do this a couple of times to coordinate with your exhalation, this little like low belly kind of twisty thing. It can feel really nice, unless you've just eaten, and then it's not so pleasant. Yeah, really nice. And then you can come back to downward facing dog. Take an inhalation here. And exhale, lower your knees to the floor, coming all the way back into Balasana, child's pose. Any version of child's pose, any extra support that you feel like you might want. And here in Balasana, you might feel again this return to noticing the inhalation, filling up the ribs, filling up the torso, letting your belly kind of relax and press against the thighs even as you breathe in and make space, breathe the air in. As you exhale, you're feeling into this forward fold shape. There at the hip sockets, there where your thigh bones meet your pelvis, there's the fold. And then there's, of course, the spine rounding too. There's all of this kind of coming in. You know the feeling of cat and cow when you're inhaling the heart forward, exhaling, bringing the back of the heart up towards the ceiling. Can you find, without changing your physical shape, can you find that sense of I inhale, there's a lightening up in the chest. There's a spaciousness in the ribs. I exhale and I am deeper in this fold, even though I haven't changed shape. So if you're not changing shape, it's not like you're becoming more child's posy looking, but what is it to come deeper into a forward fold? Maybe it's settling the attention down into the fold, into out of the brain a little deeper. I inhale, it's possible my ribs could touch the walls, could touch the ceiling. There's so much space there. I exhale and the mind drops into the pit of the stomach, into the pelvis, into the heart. Good. Good. And then just walk yourself up when you're ready to come to a seat. And we'll come to Dandasana, so we'll have the feet outstretched in front of us. First, just because it's so nice to slow down the breath, we'll take a dynamic Paschimottanasana. So as you inhale, maybe you're sitting up on something. As you inhale, reach the fingertips forward and up. And then as you exhale, you'll fold over the legs, any amount. Letting the upper back curve when it's reached its full foldiness. And then inhale, you'll come out. Exhale, lower the hands down. And there's this sense of floating the fingers up, feeling this lightness, this openness in the chest. As you exhale, you're folding into yourself. Letting the chin come in, letting the upper back round. As you inhale, bring your arms in line with your ears before you pick up the torso. It's like your fingertips reach forward. You pick up the rest of you on the way up. Exhale, float the fingertips down. A couple more times just like this. Good. Now we'll float the fingertips up. Next time it's time to inhale the arms up. You'll exhale and come into the fold to the point that makes sense and feels good. Then inhale here, stay here. Inhale and feel the breath come into the ribs, into the torso. And you might even feel a tiny little, like not even a half lift, like a teeny tiny lift of the chest, just the tiniest bit. And then exhale, belly moves towards the spine, you fold even more. Yeah. Sometimes this is called stiti. It's like we come into the shape, there's an in-breath that stabilizes. Yup, this is the shape. And then exhale, we can come even more into whatever the aspect is of the shape, usually a forward fold. Or I shouldn't say that, usually, but in this case, we're coming into the action of folding the belly towards the legs. Inhale, come forward and up with the fingertips and come out. Exhale, lowering the fingertips down. And pause for a moment in Dandasana, just noticing whatever you notice with the spine upright. You could rest your hands on by your sides or on your lap somewhere, just letting the shoulder blades slide down the back. Do you have a question, Sydney? Very good.
No, my email like popped up, so I only saw half of the screen, so I was like trying to get it to go away. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Cool. We'll do that one more time. We'll inhale, bring the fingertips forward and up. Bending the knees is always fine. It's always good. It's always fine by me. Exhale, coming down. Inhale, feeling this mini lift, but don't think so much of it as like an external shape you're trying to achieve, like halfway up lift. More that you are just blowing up the chest, inflating the chest. I need to stop saying blow up. So jarring. You're inflating the chest. You're lifting a little bit, widening a little bit, and then exhaling, bending forward, feeling the belly move towards the spine. And then inhale and come up. Exhale, lower the arms down. Cool. Now let's come to Janu Sirsasana. And we'll just explore this for a second. Right foot in towards your left thigh. So the left leg is long. Inhale, reach your hands forward and up. And in this Janu Sirsasana, how you want to have your legs, I should say, it varies. But this hip doesn't have to be super duper turned out. It can be like kind of turned out. The knee can be hovering in the air. Who cares? Inhale, you'll reach up. You'll turn towards that long extended leg and come down over that leg, coming to the extent that feels good. It makes sense. And after a breath or two, you'll just reach forward and come out. Exhale, lower the hands down. Inhale, come up once again. Exhale, folding over this leg. Staying for a breath or two. Inhaling to come forward and up with the hands, picking yourself up on the way, and exhaling to come down. Now, with this right knee, you can take this right knee, if it's comfortable, a little, even a little further back. So the foot comes kind of off of that front thigh and more into like the groin. Yeah. If that's okay, that's comfortable. It's almost like the direction of your knee is like that it's gonna point behind you. But like that's not how this little girl is built, so that's not what's gonna happen. But it's as far out to the side as is comfortable. Left leg's extended. So now you'll notice that with the pelvis a little wider, it's more of a twisting action to turn the navel towards the long foot. Does that make sense? You're having to actually kind of think about, okay, I'm twisting towards my long left leg. Yes. So we'll inhale, reach the hands up. Exhale, coming down, bring the right hand across and touch onto the left shin. So you feel even more this kind of twistiness. Inhale here. It gets kind of like that game Twister. It's like your left hand yellow. So inhale here. Your left hand can sit on top of your right. And then exhale, fold, and really feel this forward fold as the belly moves towards the spine. You're rounding. You're folding over your leg like Janu Sirsasana, like that forward fold we just did. Now we're going to come into what's called mahamudra. So what we'll do is from this forward foldy twist, you'll inhale and just take a little cow pose in the upper back. Reach the heart a little forward. So notice, the twist is still happening, the forward fold is still happening, and now you're just reaching the heart forward, tuck the chin in. And we'll stay and breathe here. Just noticing all of these elements. There's a lot going on. There's the twisting of the navel towards the foot. There's a folding forward and even a little rounding in the back as you fold forward. And then the chest is coming forward and up. The chin is tucked so that your head doesn't fall off. And you're breathing. So there's space in the belly, there's space in the chest. And to come out, after your next in-breath, you'll just exhale into the forward fold, the pure forward fold. So you'll just let that back bend go out of the chest. You'll let it all come down. And then inhale to come all the way up. And exhale, just lowering the arms, sitting up tall. And maybe bringing your feet back somewhere symmetrical, like Dandasana. Just to rest for a second, or maybe even Sukhasana, just to feel like some kind of resting place, to notice whatever you're noticing. Good. So that was the left leg. Now we'll extend the right leg long and bring the left foot in towards the inside of the right leg. So the knees off to the side, but not super dramatically. And your right foot is more or less already in front of you. There's not a humongous twist to be done here. Just start to inhale the fingertips up and exhale forward into Janu Sirsasana, forward bend. Just to the extent that feels good. Inhaling to come out. Exhaling to lower the hands down. And dynamically a couple times, floating the fingertips up. Exhaling to fold. Inhaling to come up. Good. And just a couple more times, dynamically feeling into this forward bend. And when you get back to that upright shape, it's nice to sometimes pause for a second and notice what's going on before you continue. This time we'll stay there. So you'll come down, you'll stay, and you'll inhale and just feel this kind of lifting, widening in the rib cage. And then you'll exhale to fold even more, feeling your belly move towards your spine, feeling this kind of chop in the from the place where the legs meet the pelvis. That's where the fold is. So if that means keeping the spine in kind of a diagonal shape, that's cool. It's less about the shape and more about this feeling of I inhale, I feel wide and big and shiny through the heart. I exhale, I feel the belly move towards the spine. I am folding in, down. Inhale to come out. My shoulder blades are like, whoa. Not so much even because of the arm movement. I'm noticing it in the staying. It's like a little more like a little more breathing happening than there used to. Let's come into that kind of STT kind of orientation one more time. So you'll inhale in, or sorry, exhale into the shape. Inhale, feel yourself be long. Exhale, feel yourself be folded. Inhale, come out. And exhale, lower the arms down. Now you'll take that left knee, you'll move it a little bit back in space. So you're kind of widening your legs a little bit more across the front of the pelvis. But you can still sit on the ground. You can still feel yourself sitting on the ground. Then you'll turn your navel towards your long right leg. So there's a little twist starting to happen. Inhale here, maybe reaching the arms up. And then exhale, folding over that leg with this twisty feeling in the torso. Only coming down as much as it makes sense, keeping this twist happening in the abdomen. So the shoulders are soft, everything's soft. And you can bring your left hand to your right shin to even kind of highlight, I'm going across this way, I'm twisting this way. So you're in your forward fold, you're in the twist. Feel both of those elements. And then you'll inhale and let the heart look towards your toe tips or even towards the front of the room. So come into a little cow pose in the upper back. And then the chin will want to look forward, so tuck the chin in a little bit. Mahamudra. So this is a mudra, a seal, more than a dynamic asana that we would practice dynamically. And there's a lot going on. So you're just breathing here. I had an idea that I wanted to work on this today, and then I looked in the Iyengar books just to see if Iyengar had any tidbits, any like good stuff to talk about. And this pose cures death. And I was like, oh my, what? I was like, I feel like it's good for digestion. I feel like it's good for the blah blah blah. It said this will like make you. I'm gonna try to find the quote. It was absurd. I was like, okay. But it's like it has everything in it. It has a back bend, it has a forward bend, it has a twist. And you're building up energy as you hold this. You're kind of like building up energy. So maybe, who knows? Maybe we're all conquering death right now. It's kind of a one-stop shop asana. To come out, you'll just exhale and let yourself come into the forward bend aspect, just letting everything be soft. And inhale, come out. and come back to something symmetrical, legs out in front of you, or sukhasana or something, kneeling. And just notice whatever you notice. And lying down is really nice too, Richard. That's a good impulse. This mahamudra destroys death and many other pains, is what it says. So, congratulations to us, because we have conquered every disease and pain in the whole world. I'm down. So noticing whatever you're noticing, besides the fact that you've conquered every pain. Nice. And then in your own time, we'll just come down to my favorite place to be, just lying on your back with your feet flat on the floor and your knees lifted up towards the ceiling. Just letting the low back release, especially, after seated forward bends are not easy. You're just sitting back or laying back into the back of the pelvis, feeling that your feet are supporting you. You might even bring your knees to knock in towards each other and rest against each other. That's cool too. And coming back to this feeling here, you can place your hands on your rib cage by bringing your elbows out to the side and just resting your hands on your ribs here. So feeling not only the kind of rise and fall of the chest and the belly, but also this widening of the rib cage. And lying on your back is nice because then you can feel the action of the ribs in the back. A nice that a voice teacher say the ribs are like bucket handles. So they don't just push, they don't lift or push out. It's that they swing out. It's like that. Swinging out of the way as the lungs fill up with air, they swing out of the way and then they gather back in together. Not just in the front, not just in the side, all the way around. And then you might hug your knees in towards your chest when you're ready. If you feel like coming into Apanasana and taking a little rock side to side, or using your knees in a circle to kind of massage the low back. Moving in whatever way feels good. You can come into kind of like a passive supine twist in any configuration of legs that you would like. You could stack your knees, you could cross one knee over the other, whatever you feel like. But let this be really easy. You could also just have your feet flat on the floor and move your knees side to side dynamically if that feels like it would feel better. Really gentle. This feeling that you're being twisted, that gravity's taking one half of you one way and the other half the other way. Whereas earlier we were really kind of moving the body into a shape and holding it there. Here, you're just letting gravity take one side and the other. You're being twisted. So what that means is also you can let some element of control or like muscular control can go away. You don't need the abs to move the knees over to the side. You can just let the knees move to the side. If the face is turning in the opposite direction to kind of complete that spiral, it's with ease. The jaw can be soft, the eyes can be soft, the eyebrows. Sometimes it's nice in a shape like this to ask yourself, am I doing something to hold myself here? Like, am I doing this? And see what happens if you stop doing that. See if you can stay. If you, or if maybe the shape could be a little less complicated. Sometimes the knees will shift or the hips will shift when you decide to stop doing the twist. It might look more twisty, it might look less twisty. Nice. And then eventually coming back to center, coming to Apanasana. And then you might like a little kind of gentle hips opener like Happy Baby or Supta Baddha Konasana. Maybe not, maybe not. And then eventually we can come to rest either in Supta Baddha Konasana with the soles of the feet together and the knees wide, or Shavasana. And we'll find the same kind of qualities in each, even though they're very different looking shapes. If you're in Shavasana, you can feel free to always, put something underneath your knees, or even to bring your calves to rest on a chair, sometimes kind of nice. Lifting some part of the leg. You could bring something underneath the back of the head to encourage the back of the neck to be long. And decide where you want to have your hands so that you feel like you can release the armpits, release the shoulders, and release the skin and the muscles of your hands. Just let everything be soft. So maybe your hands are on your body, or maybe they're out to the side. If they're out to the side, maybe the palms face up towards the ceiling or down towards the floor. But up towards the ceiling is kind of nice to invite this open feeling. So whether you're in Shavasana or you're in Supta Baddha Konasana, you're inviting this sense of openness, of surrender, just for this moment. And it's nice to notice that you are, I say this a lot, but you're completely held by the floor here. It's really marvelous. It's really worth noting that you are supported by the floor. Because this, I think, is what is going to allow for some release or some letting go or some surrender to even be a possibility. Really feel that you are held where you are, that you are safe where you are. So that you can give over to this moment. Let the palms face up. Let the shoulders be broad. Let the belly be exposed. Let the hips be open. You're safe. You're held and supported. You're just noticing the experience of being on the floor, being in this particular shape. If the mind is busy, you're noticing that. All the while with this sense of openness, of wide open space. And it's sort of a conversation between the support that you feel and the spaciousness that you can then give over to. Mm. You might come back into noticing sensation. For example, you might notice the very top of your head and the very bottoms of your feet or your toes, and just feel that distance. And tracing your own length from the soles of your feet all the way up through the spine to the crown of the head, feeling how tall you are, how long you are. And notice that you don't have to do anything to be that tall. Just stand in your own height. Doesn't take any extra sort of work. To lie down here and just be as long as you are is not, doesn't require any work. You're just noticing and sending your awareness and your presence to occupy all of that physical space. And same with side to side. You could feel into maybe your outer shoulder or your furthest finger that is reaching out to the side, and just notice that distance from hand to hand. foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. This is your width. And there's no extra stuff you have to do to be this wide. This is just the space that you're taking up. And just notice what it feels like to occupy all of that space. And some of us, go through times in life where it's really not pleasant to feel into this kind of space. Or it's shocking to feel into like, oh, that's how much space I take up. I'm not used to inhabiting all of that space. I feel like a lot of us make ourselves a little smaller than we are. So same with your depth from the top, from the front of the chest, which is the top of you right now, the front of the hips, and then the back of the pelvis, the back of your back of your shoulders. And like we were exploring before, just letting yourself breathe into your whole depth, your whole three-dimensionality, your whole volume. Notice how this doesn't take big huffs and puffs and reaching of the abdominal wall forward or like pressing it the back. No, this is just you. This is how much space you take up. What does it feel like to take up that much space? It could feel really nice. It could feel kind of freaky. Notice that you're not going away from yourself to reach these limits of space. This is all your space. You can run around all over the place in this three-dimensional space. You can feel into your center, can gather towards the center, you can reach towards the outer limits. And all of it is your space. So with that, if you feel like doing so, you could roll over to one side and come up to a seat, or stay laying down, or come to any other kind of movement that you feel inspired to. Ending up wherever you end up. Notice what you could release, maybe in the face, as you just abide in this space. Nothing to make more of, nothing to make less of. It's just sitting or lying down. And then we'll close with the same chant as before. We'll close just chanting Om. If you want to join me, you're welcome to. Om. Thank you to this practice and all of its teachers. And thank you guys for practicing with me and practicing together. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace.